And with gratitude for his leadership and dedication, the National Endowment for Democracy is proud to award its Democracy Service Medal to Vin Weber.
Medals are really not a Minnesota thing, but I'll keep it on for a little while. Thank you all very much. The best piece of advice that I had on giving speeches, I'm going to try to follow a little bit tonight, was actually, some of you have heard this story before, at the 20th anniversary of the NED, when I had the privilege of introducing President of the United States, George W. Bush, who spoke at our 20th anniversary. And I called up the White House, my friends in the White House, and I said, you got a great opportunity. It's going to be a very bipartisan audience. There aren't many of those around. And you got me to introduce the president, and I'm your guy. I'm the co-chairman of the campaign. I'm a Bush guy. Anything you want me to say, just let me know. You have it. It'll be on film. It'll be televised. You'll have a bipartisan audience. And they said, we really appreciate that. Let us give that some real thought. And the next day I got a call back and said, we discussed it with the president. The president appreciates your offer and says, keep it short. So that's been the best single piece of advice that I've gotten about speeches in a long time. It's really hard to hear all the great tributes tonight without sort of laughing a little bit about it, especially the parts about being such a great political advisor. My friend Paul Ryan was up here earlier, and a great friend, worked for us at Empower America, and wonderful guy. He thankfully did not mention that he called me up one day and said, I want to have a drink with you. And he said, you are the first person that I've talked to about this. I'm thinking of running for Congress. What do you think? And true to my reputation as a great political prognosticator, I said, I know your district. I know about the incumbent. You don't have a chance. Don't do it. Similar only to the advice that I gave my good friend Norm Coleman when I was heart and soul into his campaign for governor of Minnesota in 1998, because he had been not only such a good friend, but such a great mayor of the capital city of St. Paul. I thought a wonderful opportunity. And my advice at the end was, ignore him. Jesse Ventura has no chance. So Amy, it shouldn't surprise you that you're overseeing oceans on the committee that I suggest. I'm continuing a great track record here. Anyway, thanks in absentia to my friends, two committee chairmen here tonight, Jim Oberstar, who is actually my congressman from Cass County now, and Colin Peterson, who couldn't stay, but who's the chairman of the Agriculture Committee, more important than any of the other people you've heard from tonight in the state of Minnesota. Anyway, finally, let me, just in terms of thanking people, mention a couple. Carl has been nice enough to pretend that I really knew what I was doing over the 8 years that I chaired the NED. The truth is, I had a great tutor and somebody who taught me about not just believing in democracy, but actually the business of how you go about working and promoting democracy effectively around the world. And he was also nice enough not to mention that today is his birthday. Happy birthday, Carl. And finally, in terms of just mentioning people, Secretary Albright mentioned that we have traveled a good deal together, and we have so much fun. It's just hard for me to describe our relationship well. But I did have a lot of fun on our first trip overseas. We went to the Middle East, but we went through de Gaulle Airport, we went through Paris. And on the way over, this was in the wake of 9/11, and she was giving me a very hard time on the plane about the Republicans and their anti-French attitudes and people talking about freedom fries and things like that. So I just sort of took it till we went through security at the airport. And of course, I breezed right through. They did everything but strip search the former Secretary of State of the United States at that airport. And she got through security and looked at me and said, "Damn French." David, how are you? Excuse me. Anyway, So that was pretty smart. So anyway, I don't intend to give a long speech. I want to thank especially my family is here. My wife Cheryl's right back standing next to Al Hunt. Keep away from him. He's not to be trusted. And somebody mentioned that my mother, Pat, was here. Where's Mom? Mom is right over there. Amy and Madeline, you should know that my mother was born and raised a Democrat, so there's still hope for both of you. Anyway, my friend David Dreyer is here, and I want to make sure that he gets a chance to say something. Judy, I know you'll want to introduce him, but I don't want to prolong the ceremony too much. I just want to say, in a very serious note, when I thought of being honored here tonight, I thought over the 8 years that I was chairman of the NED, I did have an opportunity to present a lot of awards to people, the Democracy Award particularly, and I remember distinctly how very proud all of these people from Africa and Asia and South America were, that they were being presented with an award from the National Endowment for Democracy, that they were being presented with an award from the United States, which was the epitome of democracy for all these people. And that really occurred to me when I thought this organization that people travel all over the world to be honored by is giving me an honor. And I don't want to belabor it too much, except to simply say I do understand what a great honor it is to be honored by the National Endowment for Democracy. And I appreciate tremendously this opportunity to be with you tonight, and I appreciate the opportunity to have served the last 8 years. So to Carl and Senator Sarbanes and the rest of the board, Judy particularly, I really thank you, and I am honored for it. I also remember some of those people that we honored were in dire peril when they came here. You probably remember her name, Carl, I don't, but we honored a group of Islamic women one year, one of them from Iran, and we had to find out ahead of time if she thought it would be helpful or harmful for her to be public because her husband was in prison. And it was a close call, but she decided at the end of the day that her husband's health and well-being was probably marginally better served by the publicity than by the lack of the publicity. It reminds me, and I believe it was then Senator Biden who helped us present an award talking about this phenomenon and said, you know, all of us here in politics in Washington, the worst that can happen if we lose is we lose an election. The rest of the world, if you lose, you can lose your life, you can lose your family, you can lose your property. And it reminds me that there are millions of people like that still around the world who are struggling to get the kind of freedom or a little piece of the kind of freedom and democracy that we have in this country. That is the cause that everybody in this room is dedicated to. Carl mentioned and others have mentioned that we're living in a period where people talk about the backlash against democracy or regression against democracy a little bit. And certainly we've had some steps backward. But there was never a day as chairman of the NED that I didn't feel optimistic about the future of democracy, not because conditions in the world were always so much better, but because I looked at people around, like the staff of the NED, the leadership of the NED, the board of the NED, the people associated with NDI and IRI and CIPE and ACILS and the other organizations that promote democracy. And there is not a more dedicated group of people in this town around any cause or any issue than the people that I met in the pro-democracy movement. At the end of the day, I do believe that our cause is the cause of the future as well as the past. And I'm confident that that'll be a bright future because of the work of people like you. Thank you so much for honoring me. It's been a great privilege.
Well, Vin, the warm applause, the warm comments throughout the evening, the expression of gratitude on all the faces here, that really says it all. We thank you, Vin, for all you've done for people around the world to help them chart their own course to democracy. You're an American treasure. We thank you, Vin, and we thank you all for being part of this momentous evening. Please enjoy the refreshments, and on behalf of the Board of Directors of the National Endowment for Democracy, we wish you a very good evening. Thank you.